Welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Today, we're stepping into one of those stories that never stops buzzing and always carries a shadow of mystery, the connection between two of Turkey's most beloved stars, Barış and Elçin Sengu. You've asked for it, you've debated it, you've dissected every photo and every interview, and tonight we're going deeper than we ever have to untangle what's really behind their elusive romance. Get ready, because we're bringing context, clues, and yes, the possible hidden motive everyone keeps whispering about. If you live for this kind of deep dive into Turkish entertainment, don't wait, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, tap that red button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Your support is what lets us keep telling the stories you crave. Barış and Elçin Sengu. Two names that, the moment you put them in the same sentence, send timelines into flames. For years, they've been surrounded by speculation, denied rumors, renewed hope, and sudden silence. The question never changes: what is the real story? As always, the truth tends to be layered. That's where we come in, piecing together what's on record, what's between the lines, and what might explain the choices they've made in public. Let's go back to where it all began. Their spark was undeniable the moment they stood opposite each other in Karalık Aşk as Ömer and Daphne. On screen, it was electricity, the glances that lingered, the effortless rhythm in their exchanges, the way a quiet moment could explode into feeling. It didn't take long for that energy to leap out of fiction and into the minds of fans who swore they were seeing something real. And it wasn't just the audience. The Turkish press picked up the scent almost immediately, connecting dots from behind-the-scenes clips, interview snippets, and those small, telling looks that cameras catch when scripts are no longer rolling. The first waves of rumor started soon after the series' success reached fever pitch. Suddenly, there were accounts of them being spotted at the same after-parties, whispers of late-night dinners, and hints from mutual circles that their bond wasn't only professional. At certain points, the chatter reached a steady hum, the idea that something lasting was taking shape, something with future plans attached. Then, as if someone flipped a switch, came the stories of distance, of focus shifting back to work, of things cooling just when hope was warmest. And so the pattern set in, a cycle of closeness and calm, heat and hush, that kept everyone on edge, waiting for clarity that never quite arrived. What sits underneath that push and pull? Here's where the conversation turns to the hidden motive, not something dark, but the forces that shape how a relationship like theirs is handled in the open. The simplest answer, and often the strongest, is career. Both are at the top of their craft, commanding massive fan bases and carrying projects that depend on careful image management. A public love story can be a spark plug for attention, a magnet for interest that lifts everything attached to it. But that same attention can become noise, crowding out their work, creating pressure that's hard to escape, and risking the loss of fans who prefer the fantasy on screen to a defined reality off-screen. It's also impossible to ignore cultural context. Turkey is shifting and modern in many ways, but tradition still holds weight. Marriage, stability, the idea of a relationship that follows a certain rhythm, these expectations still shape how stars are judged. If a romance is seen as too public, too fast, or not heading toward the outcome some audiences want, the backlash can be loud. The pressure to define, to label, to promise a future can arrive before two people have even had the chance to understand what they want privately. Against that backdrop, maintaining a little fog can be strategic. Keep the curiosity alive, keep the conversation going, but protect the core of what's real by never letting it be pinned down. Privacy sits at the center of it all. They are two of the most watched names in the industry, nothing in their orbit escapes scrutiny for long. Imagine trying to nurture something fragile and meaningful while every move is tracked, dissected, and turned into a headline. Ambiguity becomes armor. Share what feels safe, let the rest remain unspoken. Not out of manipulation, but out of self-preservation, a way to hold on to a life that isn't directed by the crowd. There's another layer, strategy. Representation teams, brand partners, and production schedules don't just shape a career, they shape timing. It is extremely likely that, along with their teams, Barış and Elçin have carefully chosen when to speak, when to smile for a photo, and when to step back. A sudden announcement can jolt the public, but the slow burn, glimpses without declarations, keeps engagement high without locking them into a narrative they might later regret. It's a delicate balance. Let the chemistry feed the story, but never let the story own them. Of course, we have to be honest about the role the media and fandom play in magnifying what may simply be warmth and mutual respect. When the chemistry is as potent as Ömer and Defne's, people want the fairy tale to continue beyond the final shoot. A laugh in an interview becomes coded language. A friendly reunion photo becomes a confession. This collective wish can inflate a passing moment into a sweeping plotline. When the next day brings fewer signs, the same wish can twist into rumors of a rift. And if we're being fair, we must admit the contradictions have been hard to reconcile. There have been windows when they seemed almost inseparable, radiating a bond that felt impossible to fake. Then came stretches of quiet, or interviews where career goals took the spotlight and personal questions drifted unanswered. Was that an intentional step back? A temporary separation driven by timelines and obligations? Or was it two determined professionals trying, over and over, to find a rhythm that real life wouldn't allow? One of the theories gaining the most traction among longtime observers is the evolution theory, that what existed between them, call it a flirtation, call it a quiet romance, call it a profound connection, may have softened into a deep, steady friendship. They'd both grown, both taken on new challenges, both matured under the weight of enormous public attention. It's not unreasonable to believe that the spark that once felt combustible could have settled into enduring respect and the kind of care that doesn't need to be defined. And in a celebrity landscape where exes working together or friends staying close is often misread as rekindled love, it's easy to see how lines get blurred. If that's the hidden motive, it's not a scandal, it's a choice toward calm. Maybe the point has never been to fool anyone or play games. Maybe it's been about protecting their peace, safeguarding their careers, and honoring a bond that didn't need to be tested by a million opinions. In other words, no grand conspiracy. Just two people who know their value to each other and to their craft, and who prefer the quiet path when the loud one offers only temporary thrills. And we can't overlook the particular pressure placed on young stars at their peak. They're treated as ideals, mirrors for a public hungry for perfect love. One misstep becomes a narrative. One rumor becomes a cloud. Controlling the story is not vanity, it's survival. When we talk about the truth behind Barış and Elçin, we have to accept that the clearest picture will always be the one they choose to present. Everything else is inference, a glimpse through a window that they keep only slightly ajar. So where does that leave us? With a reality that is probably a blend. Authentic chemistry born in a phenomenon of a series, amplified by fandom and the press, a mutual understanding shaped by image and ambition, a constant negotiation between what the world demands and what two people actually need. The hidden motive isn't sinister, it's the sum of career calculus, cultural nuance, the right to privacy, and the simple truth that relationships evolve. And that brings us to you. What do you see when you look back at their journey? From the first meet-cute energy of Ömer and Defne, to the knowing smiles and later reunions, to the intentional silences that say more than any official statement ever could? Do you believe there's still something glowing under the surface, waiting for the right time? Or do you think they left the spark on set and carried forward only the respect? Tell us your theory. We read everything, and your perspective makes this community what it is. If this exploration gave you new angles to consider, show some love. Hit like, share this video with the friend who still watches their scenes on loop, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets so you're first in line when we unpack the next twist. Thank you for being here, for caring about the craft as much as the chemistry, and for joining us in a conversation that values nuance over noise. Until next time, keep your notifications on and your heart open to whatever truth they choose to reveal.